Hello from London, and it's Quick Tip Tuesday, and today is the fourth in the mini-series on how to get the most out of working one-to-one online with a language teacher. I'm talking about your typical Skype lesson, perhaps, over the internet. First of all, if you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm Dr. Gareth Hopkins. Here it's about language learning from many angles, exploring how, sharing stories, vlogging out in the field. So if you haven't yet subscribed to The Vibe, please do. And if you want to get my free language learning webinar training, you can sign up underneath this video. In the first in series, we looked at the objective factors when it comes to choosing your own language teacher. For example, price, availability, cancellation policies. We moved on in the second video to look at the subjective factors. Basically, do you get on? What's the teacher's personality like? And then last time we were looking at goal setting for the sessions. I want to take a step back and to try and make sure that our expectations are realistic when we're working one-to-one with a teacher. What I'm going to say, I think, is true for any sort of language learning, whether you're in a class or working actually with a teacher actually physically, not necessarily online. And that is that the teacher can't learn the language for you. It's sort of obvious, really. But I think sometimes we do fall into the trap of thinking maybe somehow the teacher can beam the language into our head, give us a magic pill or something, a magic method, or we can actually somehow buy the language. Quite a lot of teachers tell me that they have students. Sometimes they get the impression that these students think that actually they can somehow buy the language. No, we have to take responsibility for our own learning. At the end of the day, it's down to us, which is why I was stressing that setting your own goals and setting your one-to-one language learning in the wider context of your adult independent language learning, which is what we're all about here, is so important. Now, I mentioned that teacher and language mentor friends of mine often say that students have this misconception that somehow the language can be learned for them. But of course, there are exceptions in the teaching community to that view. A very famous one is Michel Thomas, the great Hungarian teacher, whose courses are now still available to buy in recorded form. But he specialised in intensive, full-time work with a small group, either individual students or a very small group. It was extremely expensive, of course, to have this tuition. He used to say, sit back in your armchair, relax, and let me, the teacher, take the burden of teaching you the language. But that's very much, I think, a minority view. And of course, that fitted for his particular method, which is extremely labour intensive for the teacher and also very expensive. And it's unlikely that you're going to be in a position to be able to afford that sort of one-to-one full-time attention. If you are, great. If you're not, I'm not saying, of course, that the teacher doesn't have a big responsibility. They do. But at the end of the day, it's down to you. And to feel that you're getting the most out of the work with a teacher, then you've got to set your expectations realistically. What can the teacher actually do for you then if they can't beam the language into your head? And that's what I want to sort of just look at in the next couple of minutes. First of all, the teacher, of course, can explain and illustrate the language to you. This is the classic idea we have maybe from school, where the teacher is going through language patterns on the blackboard, introducing new items of vocabulary. And that can lead to aha moments, which help us to internalise whatever we're learning in the language. It's not enough on its own, of course, because practice is so important, but it's a useful function if you feel that you are not happy reading about that from a textbook or using some sort of interactive course. You want someone to talk you through it. Nothing to be apologetic about. It's a great function you can use a teacher for if that's the way you want to go. Secondly, the teacher can provide you with a model, which is why I suggested when we were looking at the subjective aspects of choosing a teacher that someone of a similar age and background to yourself might be a good idea. Someone whose voice and whose speech patterns you can model. A great way to use a teacher. Next, the teacher can provide you with corrective feedback. This could be on your accent, other aspects of your speaking. For example, if you're already an intermediate or an advanced level, you may have fossilized mistakes in your speaking. Mistakes that you make again and again. They might be quite fundamental aspects of the language, they don't hinder comprehension perhaps, and you don't realise that you're even making them. The teacher could help you with doing exercises and helping you correct those, whether they're written or you're working through them orally in real time with the teacher. And obviously the teacher can correct your written work too. Remember, if you're going to have a teacher correct your written work, then this should be done live, perhaps sharing your screen, sharing the teacher's screen during the lesson. You could use Google Docs as well, for example. Otherwise, you need to pay the teacher extra probably. Check the teacher's policies, because it's a bit unreasonable to expect them to do a lot of correction for you if they're being paid an hourly or a half-hourly rate and they have to do a lot of extra work after or before the lesson. Another great thing you can use the teacher for is inspiration and motivation. As I said, when you're talking about the subjective factors of working with a teacher, if you feel a great enthusiastic vibe coming from the teacher, that can really help you, and it's something that you can draw on, a great reason and a great way to use a teacher and a realistic expectation to have of a teacher, I think. Something else I think your teacher should be able to give you are methodological tips, just like we do here on the channel. If you don't know how to do something, then you're able to approach the teacher and ask for some advice, and they should have a lot of experience working with other students from their own reading and their own experience to share with you. Finally, I think the teacher can give you guidance on materials, not only materials they may be working with you on, but also other things that you can use outside the lesson time. And that could be to get additional, more passive exposure and input, things to listen to, things to read. Reference works that you might want if you want to take a more academic approach to studying the language, or perhaps collections of vocabulary if you want to do some flashcarding and build out your vocabulary in a systematic way. And also great things that you can watch and listen to that are appropriate to your level using the latest technologies on the internet then basically. So there's a range of things you can expect from a teacher. No, they can't beam the language into your head, but they can explain and illustrate, provide you with a great model, provide good corrective feedback, motivate you, share methods and tips, and give you guidance on materials in the widest sense. And if you go in knowing already what you're wanting from the sessions and with realistic expectations, that I think is a great start when you're going about optimizing your experience of working one-to-one with the teacher you've chosen to work with. Thanks a lot for watching. If you're actually watching this on the Tuesday that it appears, it's the 28th of May. I'm about to head out to Bratislava for the Polyglot Gathering, which starts at the end of the week. Look out for vlogs from there and a blog post or two coming up on howtogetfluent.com. In the meantime, do share your expectations of a good teacher. What are you looking for? What do you think it's realistic to expect from an online teacher? Share your stories or any further questions in the comments below. Look out for the next in this mini-series, and thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for the vibe, throw me a thumbs up, tickle that bell, and share if you found. See you next time.